Rieger getting traded to Minnesota changes nothing.
6'4" guys running 4.4s. These guys don't grow on trees. And a lot of times I'm willing to bet on, especially long term, on the freak athlete.
You don't ever want to overreact to what guys look like in preseason. There's been a ton of preseason all-stars that never make rosters or never pan out. There it is. If you're not awake yet, you should be now.
That's right.
Late enough in the day, you should be awake. At least here, here where we're at. But welcome everybody to Belly Up Fantasy Live. This is the Wednesday preview show. We'll be talking about the Saturday games today. I am Chase Thornton, coming to you from the Mott and Bailey Basement Bar, and with me, as always, Kevin Wilson from down there in Texas. How we doing, Kevin?
Right. We're doing great, and we're getting worked up about some Saturday and Sunday games coming up this weekend, and so I'm glad that we're talking games and not what the GOAT is going to do or what Aaron Rodgers.
Right,
I'm sure you're concerned about Aaron Rodgers, but the rest of us, those guys need to get off the stage, exit stage left, and so we'll concentrate on actual football.
Yep, I am with you on that. Yeah, I will pay attention to Aaron Rodgers when he gives a statement one way or the other whether he wants to play again, and then once he wants to play, we'll figure out what happens. And as far as Tom Brady goes, I do think he'll be back, but I don't know if he'll be back with Tampa Bay, but I'm not worrying about that again until we hear something, because we have football lined up here for this weekend. We are in the divisional round. We got 4 games, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday. And I'll tell you what, they're going to be hard pressed to match last weekend for the
they sure are.
Drama and for intensity. I mean, that was a great weekend of playoff football there for anybody that watched it.
Yep, none of those games went any way that we thought they would, and so that was fine, because we thought that the Dolphins had no reason to be on the same field as Buffalo. They showed us wrong. And then the Bengals should have taken care of, but as we said just a minute ago, it's a divisional game, and none of us could have predicted that it would have turned on a 98 fumble return for a touchdown.
I don't think anybody had a 98-yard defensive end, touchdown run as the difference.
That's right. And that was so great seeing him breathing oxygen and everything else on the sideline over there.
That was what I said. The best part of that was
that's not what football is all about. I don't know what
he's got the oxygen on. Attaboy. But yeah, good weekend. I mean, the most of them were close games. The Seattle game got a little out of hand there in the fourth quarter, but up until the fourth quarter, that game was very much in doubt.
That's right. They were going toe to toe until the Geno Smith fumble, and then what are you going to do?
But they acquitted themselves well, I thought, in that game.
They did.
Chargers, who I thought would win, had an epic all-time historical collapse against the Jaguars, and good for Trevor Lawrence for sticking with it. That's a team that I think you got to kind of get behind. If you don't have a dog in the fight anymore, as you and I don't, Jaguars are one of those teams that I think you want.
There we go.
This one you want.
Jaguar. All right. So
there you go. The Buffalo game being closer than anybody gave that any.
Was that a great looking stadium? They had that place looking all snazzy. No snow. No.
It was
blizzards. None of that. And it was just a game and strap it in.
What a great
and
game. Skylar,
I don't know. We're going to talk about Sunday, but Josh Allen, come on now. You need to get it together.
He's going to have to play it better than that, because
he's going to have to play much better.
Is not going to, they're not going to roll over. Skylar Thompson, good for that kid.
That's right.
Third-string emergency rookie quarterback, 7th-round pick, was it 247 overall, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, he's taken 20 picks ahead of Mr. Irrelevant over there.
And honestly, that was the best he'd looked the whole time he played this season. In a playoff game, when his nerves you'd have thought would have been just through the roof, that kid acquitted himself well. He can play in the league. He can play in
so hopefully Commissioner Cooper down there, when he got off the plane, gave him a high five,
right
down there in Miami. So
right. Yeah, well, being the third string quarterback, sometimes you actually can get a little bit of access to those guys. But No, then yeah, we talked about Cincinnati, Baltimore. I think playing 2 weeks in a row probably was a benefit to Baltimore. Playing each other 2 weeks in a row, they just come off the game against Cincinnati, so they had some familiarity there with their defense and what their offense was going to do. And Tyler Huntley played well.
He did.
He played more efficiently than we've seen him play in a while. He ran the ball very effectively. So yeah, that was a great game. And then Monday night, of course, Dallas kind of put a whooping on the Buccaneers. That was about the only one that wasn't really ever in doubt. I mean,
I sure was glad I wasn't involved in fantasy in that game because during the fantasy season, Brett Maher was my kicker, and he had a great season.
Teams, yeah.
He had a great season. So, but
and again,
missing 4-point after attempts, that's a negative 4 points right there. Plus, he made one. So, -3 out of your kicker is not going to get it done.
Pretty much, since they started really keeping records and really keeping, the statistics, 1932 was when they basically started.
32, that's right. That's the same thing I saw. Nobody's missed 4 extra points since 1932.
In any game.
And
this is a playoff game.
My dad was not alive at that point in time. Maybe my grandmother, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
So nobody that's alive today saw the last time that 4 extra points were missed.
Man, that was rough. That was rough to watch, and you felt for the guy because, like you said, he was kicker 3 on the year. He was one of the best kickers.
That's right. And this reminded me of a second baseman for Minnesota, Chuck Knobloch.
Yeah, getting the yips.
He had the problem. He got what they call the yips, and he couldn't throw it to first.
He couldn't throw it 30 feet. Yeah, he couldn't throw it 30 feet to first base. Fielding between first and second.
And I forget the pitcher for St. Louis. I forget what his name is, but he couldn't throw it over the plate, and they made him an outfielder. So it happens.
Oh, I know who you mean too, because he actually went on to be a pretty good outfielder.
He had some speed, and ended up being a power pitcher. He could throw the ball from at the wall, but his days as a pitcher were over.
Yeah, it was about 10 years ago, 12 years ago but he was like a middle of the lineup hitter for them too. I know who you're talking about. It's gonna piss me off if I can't think about it, but we're talking football anyway today. So
that's right, football. Baseball can just stay off the stage a little bit longer.
A couple of weeks yet, but
that's right. Yeah. You stay over there, baseball. And the grown-ups over here will talk football.
Luckily for Brett Maher, he has another chance to redeem himself. They are still playing in the tournament here. They won handily over Tom Brady, his first loss against the Cowboys ever there.
That's right.
So they move on. The GOAT goes home, and it sets us up for a fun weekend this week. We got
sure does.
2 games on Saturday that we're going to talk about right now. We'll talk about the Sunday games on Sunday morning, but our first game on Saturday is the Jacksonville Jaguars, the previously mentioned Jacksonville Jaguars, traveling to Kansas City, meet the number 1 seed in the AFC, Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are favored right now by 6.5, thanks to our folks over at Q4 there for that line. And Q4 has the over-under set at 55.5. So I think they're looking for some.
So that's a little higher than some of the things I've seen. I don't know if I'm ready to go over 55.5.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, you are talking about probably the two defenses left in the playoffs who will give up the most points or are prone to giving up the most points.
Well, Kansas City's only number 12, so that's not so bad.
But they're playing against each other, and we're talking about a couple of potential high-powered offenses against a couple of, middle of the road at best, probably defenses. So yeah, I can see some points, coming.
Yeah, there might be some points coming, and all I can say is Jacksonville, you better not fall into some 20-7-0 hole because. No. Kansas City will run the ball more than 8 times in the second half.
Right. Okay? Yeah, and they have the ability.
You can be sure of that.
I think Isaiah Pacheco.
They do. They've got 2 running backs who are outstanding, so that sets up Kansas City pretty well. Even though Jacksonville is number 12 against running backs, so that looks like an interesting matchup to me right out of the gate. what is Pachenko and McKinnon going to do against Jacksonville's defense? That's the strength of their whole defense.
Right.
And so passing, unfortunately for them, Jacksonville, I mean, not so good. So you got Travis Kelce over there, which does not bode well for Jacksonville.
No, I have Kelce. If you my rankings should be up over on the site starting tomorrow for this weekend. I have Kelce ranked as the number 1 tight end. I don't think that's a
there's no debate
revelation
there.
to anybody.
No debate.
It's
if
not,
you want
not
to
only is he
debate that,
playing
then we could talk about it later. But
right? Not only is he
so
playing well, but it's a good matchup.
Straight.
Like you said, the Jaguars are a good tight end matchup for fantasy wise. So I do have Kelce ranked number 1, and he's on DraftKings. He's the most expensive option at tight end as well, as he has been.
As he should be
pretty much the entire year. He's going to cost you 77 out of your 50,000, 7,700 out of your 50,000 budget there on DraftKings. That's a little steep.
That's a little steep when you look across the field that Evan Ingram might be a much better option.
I do like Evan Ingram, and I like Evan Ingram as a tight end 4 this week, and he's at 4,300. He's much more affordable, much more in line with what you want to spend as your tight end, and I think he's going to be just fine in that slot. Now, obviously, Kelce,
Kelce's Kelce
in yearly formats, in redraft formats, dynasty, those kinds of things. Kelce gives you such an advantage over the course of the year because there is no tight end that can touch him in terms of the weekly explosive ability every week. And
we thought maybe Mark Andrews, but no.
Right, and we've seen Kittle flash. We've seen Goddard
flash. But then he'll flash off just as fast.
We've seen individual guys have runs or weeks or a month of sustained production, but we've never seen anybody. I mean, Gronkowski. I guess we could say Gronkowski and Graham. We've seen do similar things in the past, but there's no one else.
Tony Gonzalez, guys like that, but
yeah. But in the daily game, when Kelce is just a member of your roster, and you can have either him or someone else's wide receiver.
That's right.
Either him or someone else's running back. It evens out a little bit his advantage.
You could take some errors somewhere else in your lineup if you have Kelce to cover over some spots, if that does happen.
But he's not the automatic play that he is in redraft or in season-long formats, because he's not just up against Robert Tonyan and Dawson Knox and Jonnu Smith. He's up against everybody else's number 1 and number 2 wide receivers. He's up against everybody else's number 1 and number 2 running backs. He's up against everybody else's quarterback. He's up against everybody else in the league that flashes off for a big game. And so he's not the automatic play that at first glance you might think he is. He's got the ability every game, but at 7,700, he's one of the more expensive players
weigh
out
that. You definitely have to weigh that if that's what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
You got to put him in your lineup first if that's what you're going to do, and then kind of build around that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind him there, but if you're in a format where you have to take a tight end, I like Ingram at 4,300 better.
If you're not playing in a format where you have to take a tight end, then what are we doing?
Then what are you talking about? But
tight ends are part of football, and I've heard that argument before. Oh, we shouldn't have to have tight ends in fantasy football. Please stop that.
It's a position.
That's ridiculous, and I'm not listening to any of that.
But 7,700 might be a little rich if you go lower on that. And like I said, if you went with Ingram, who I have ranked at
Ingram or Goddard,
and Ingram's coming off a good
healthy.
game.
We'll talk about him just a little bit later. But
Ingram's coming off a game where he got you 20 points. He had 7 catches, 93 yards. He had a touchdown. I mean, you're talking a real good game there from a tight end. Anybody, but from
all their receivers had good games for Jacksonville.
Well, once Lawrence finally started throwing to the guys in teal and not to the guys in yellow and white, he spread it around, but they all rose to the occasion. I mean, Christian Kirk had 8 catches.
That's right,
on 14
they sure did. Because the 3 of them accounted for 23 catches between the 3 of them.
Yeah.
Zay Jones, Kirk, and Ingram.
And then I mean, and you're
That
talking
bodes well for Jacksonville against that Kansas City defense
all
because
three
that's
of
the
them.
weakness of
All
their
three of
defense.
them got you 22 plus fantasy points if you played them. And I did have them. I had a good daily day on. I had a good DFS
You
day on
might be
Saturday.
kicking yourself in the head at the halftime thinking, why did I start these guys? But in the second half, they redeemed
Nope. They
themselves
came
all the
back
way
in a
around.
hurry. And I
They
said I
sure
liked
did.
Zay Jones. I had Zay Jones
I do
across my
too. He's
DFS
been on my
lineups.
fantasy team much of the season, so I'm much big on Zay Jones. And I have Ingram. I got him off the waiver wire late in the season, and he helped me win my league.
Yeah. No, Ingram had a great year. He finally had the year we were all looking for. But if you're setting lineups this weekend, from a DFS standpoint here, looking at this Jaguars Chiefs game, I think that you can do a lot of damage with these Jaguar receivers
I do too.
for
I
cheaper
think
than
so.
you can at some other options. I mean, Zay Jones, even after the big game last week, and even after he was wide receiver 25 on the year, so he was a borderline wide receiver 2 on the year to begin with.
Right.
But you're talking about a guy who last week saw 13 targets, caught 8 of them,
13
74
targets,
yards and a score.
of which he
And
caught
he's only
8
going
of
to
them.
cost you $4,700. He's only going to
Okay.
cost you $4,700.
Sign me up for that
That's
right now.
cheap.
Sign me
That's
up.
cheap. You could plug him in. You know you're going to get good production. He's going to get looks across the board, and it's a good matchup. The Chiefs are not great against opposing wide receivers.
No, they're not. That's the weakness of their whole defense. So pile it on.
The Chiefs, I mean, on the year, Chiefs were the number 8 fantasy defense, but against opposing quarterbacks and against opposing wide receivers, they gave up points. They can be had there.
Their strength is the run game over there. So Travis Etienne, you may not want to do that.
And if you're looking for value, which you always are in DFS,
That's right.
Should be in redraft as well, but in DFS, you're always looking for value. Who can I fill my lineup out with who's a little cheaper that allows me to spend on some of the bigger names, some of the guys that you know are going to go off, the CMCs and those types. Maybe allow you to get a Kelsey, maybe allow you to spend and splurge on Patrick Mahomes or, what have you. I think that the Jacksonville receivers, as they have been all year, are a good place to start because even Marvin Jones, now he's not the guarantee. He didn't see as many looks last week. He only had 6 looks, but he caught 3 of them, and he did catch the touchdown. But if you're getting that out of your number 3 receiver, I mean, that's still a pretty dang good day. That's a double-digit day that he had for you. He's only 3,600. Kirk, even as a number 1 wide receiver, is only going for 6,000.
Sign me up for that now.
Christian Kirk on the year was wide receiver 11. He was a wide receiver 1. He played like it this year. They paid him like it this year. I've been beating that drum all year. If you guys have watched us on Sunday mornings or on Wednesday
afternoons, and you have watched us, so you know what.
I like Christian Kirk, and I think that everybody can get off of their tailpipes in terms of riding the Jaguars for paying Christian Kirk. Why did they pay him that? He's not. The numbers say otherwise. The numbers say that he performed as a number 1 wide receiver.
I have shut up a long time ago about that. So.
And they're only going to get better next year.
That's right. They're all going to mess you up.
Ridley,
going forward, they're not. They're veterans, kind of, but they're not 33 or anything.
They need to bring Evan Ingram back. But
yes, they do.
If they bring Ingram back,
where else are you going to find a tight
end
like him? Where else? No.
Right?
You got him on the cheap, so get him, sign him, do what you need to do.
Lock him down for a while.
Lock him down.
Good chemistry with Lawrence.
Then you got Lawrence and all those guys going forward, and things look good, especially in that division. Because let's face it, that AFC South is an intimately winnable division.
Right.
Going forward.
But you're talking about Kirk as their number 1 or 2, possibly, depending on how Ridley looks when he comes back. But everybody expects
They got Ridley too, so they've got weapons all over the place.
Zay Jones will be a number 3 receiver on his own team. That's a deep receiving team. Who knows if Marvin Jones, if they do bring him back, I mean, he is getting up there a little bit, but Marvin Jones is a number 4 wide receiver. It's pretty dang good.
Yeah,
that's a nice.
It is good
deep roster. And I think that they've got things headed in the right direction down there. And Urban Meyer needs to take a long, hard look in the mirror if he hasn't already. And I don't mean the mirror at the back of the bar. I mean, he needs
Yeah.
to take a long, hard look in the mirror and see what the hell was I thinking.
I don't know. If he looks in the mirror too long, then he's going to be probably doing some grooming out there. So, might want to limit him on those looks for just, a bit.
So I've got Trevor Lawrence in this game. I've got him ranked out of the 8 starting quarterbacks this weekend. I've got him ranked at number 7, simply because I think
Kansas City
they're
defense.
Yeah, Kansas City defense. I mean, it's a good matchup.
They're on the road, which doesn't help.
But they're on the road, and I don't think they're going to win the game. I think he may find some pressure there, but even so, it's a good enough matchup that if you want to go cheaper at quarterback, then you might otherwise go. I mean, you're going to have to pay $8,000 for Mahomes. You can get for $2,000 less. You can get Trevor Lawrence, and you may get. I've got Mahomes ranked as number 1 quarterback 1 this weekend. I think that
that's an easy rank. Jacksonville's pass defense is not good.
They are suspect, and they give up fantasy points to opponents.
So if you're a Jacksonville fan, you got to be concerned about that matchup right there.
But really, I mean, you look at the 4 games, and there really aren't any bad choices left at quarterback from a DFS.
No.
I mean, so if you want to spend less at quarterback this week, you can do that and give yourself some more money to go out and make sure that you do get the McCaffreys and the big names, the Kelce's and the Diggs and whoever.
I know. Last week we talked about Daniel Jones, but I'm not doing that this week. Not doing it.
Now, see, now Daniel Jones, and we'll talk about him in a little bit here. But
that game's to come. But
I have him ranked at number 6, right ahead of Lawrence. But again, I don't know. I don't think that you have to worry about it so much. I think that quarterback this week is. Obviously you're getting down to the point where the best teams are the ones left, and 9.5 out of 10 times, it's the teams with the best quarterbacks that do make it this far, right? Even Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, has not played like it. He's been playing like a champ over the last 2 months.
For crying out loud, he had 6 touchdown passes in his last 2 games.
Right. So I don't think that you have to worry so much about the quarterback position this week in fantasy. Take whoever you can get, and if you want to spend a little bit less to give yourself a shot at getting some bigger names elsewhere, do it.
I would do that. I would seriously do that, and forget that Mr. Irrelevant stuff. Just put that aside. And
it's over. He's not a rookie anymore either.
No,
by this point in the season, nobody's a rookie.
No, nobody's a rookie who has thrown 2 touchdown passes every week, and then all of a sudden he wakes up and says, "You know what? 2's not enough." Then he throws 3 2 weeks in a row.
And runs for another one.
And throws
had a career high
touchdown run in on top of it all.
That a boy, Brock. Keep her up.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, and the opposite end of the spectrum, then, DFS wise, all the good defenses are left too, for the most part. These are good defenses that don't give up a ton of fantasy points to opponents, right?
Right.
But you're also playing a lot of the best and most high-powered offenses that are left too. I would not go with the lower-ranked and cheaper necessarily defenses this week. I would be looking at the ones that got sacks and turnovers in that during the season.
Yeah.
I would still be looking at the San Franciscos, and I would still be looking, at.
I would look at the Philadelphia Eagles, which, like you said, we'll talk about it in a minute. They led the NFL in sacks and had 17 interceptions as a team.
You want to look at right now, because the offenses are still so damn good. Your defenses are going to give up points most likely. You can think about it. I don't see many of these games these aren't going to be 16-3, games. So just concede the idea that they're going to give up points, but the defenses, like you just said, that turn the ball over.
That's right. The force the turnovers where you get your points from in the first place.
Yeah, you're going to give up points. So don't worry about that. Don't let that shy you away. But
that's right.
From San Francisco's standpoint, and again, we'll talk about them more Sunday, but Dak played very well the other night. Dak played very well. Maybe one of his best games of his career, probably. All things considered. But he was very turnover prone this season. He threw a lot
He's
of
been
picks this
turnover
season,
prone like nobody's business
right?
up until this last game.
So there's still the
And so
opportunity there.
yeah, like I said, we'll talk about that more on Sunday. But
The Buffalo defense,
if you're
even
looking
though
for
they
a
lost Von
defense,
Miller,
Philadelphia is the place I would go.
and they're playing. They're probably playing the least explosive offense that's left because of the receiving situation there. And
Right. Which
obviously, Saquon
they all
Barkley
played
can
well
pop at any time.
this past week.
They played very well.
They
But
played very well. So like we'll talk about them, and I guess in a minute too. But
Darius Slayton and Richie
Darius
James
Slayton,
and Isaiah
and
Hodgins don't strike quite
we
the
mentioned
fear,
Hodgins' name last week,
right?
and Bellinger didn't jump out of his drawers like we thought maybe he would, but he's still a guy that I like. But going up against that Philly defense, that's going to be, I don't know. I'm looking elsewhere than Bellinger.
I said those three names, Slayton, James, and Hodgins. They don't strike quite the fear in everybody's heart that Diggs and McKenzie and Davis,
right,
or obviously Chase, Higgins, Boyd, Kelsey and Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, you've got high-powered offenses that are left, and they probably have the weakest receiving core, which does limit their explosive ability.
Plus, he throws to all three of them.
But he does.
And so none of those three guys stand out from the rest of them.
Well,
so there's your issue if you're going to go.
You want to talk about teams that don't stand out from each other, though. Receivers that don't necessarily stand out from each other, and this I think this shocked every. I mean, maybe it didn't shock everybody, but the other side of this first game that we're talking about, the Saturday game here with the Chiefs. Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Nicole Hardman, Justin Watson, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore.
Stay away from that.
None of them really stepped forward and grabbed that number one role by
they sure didn't. Although, Juju had 78 catches.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get a fine year.
But then it falls way down. MVS 42. And so, what they've been doing over there is kind of a mystery because, well, except for Kelsey, of course.
Right.
But they don't have Hill. They don't have any of that explosive wide receivers on Kansas City. And even though they have Mahomes, none of their receivers stands out to me. And so I would not be looking at any of those guys in my lineup this week.
I do have Smith-Schuster ranked as the wide receiver 10 this week.
That's a little higher than I have him.
But I mean, you're talking there's 8 teams, so there's 16 ones and twos left. I mean, so I've got him 10 out of 16 starters.
Right. And that is the weakness of the Jacksonville defense. So there's some merit there.
Right. He only saw two targets last week, caught both of them, didn't score, but that's not out of character. I mean, he hasn't been a target monster this year in any way, shape, or form. Not like Tyreek Hill was when he was there, and not like Kelsey is at his position. But the one that you might take a look at that they have been trying to use a little bit and might be that explosive type weapon for them that I like. If you want to take a big swing at a deep name here, and not deep name, but Kadarius Toney, I've got ranked at wide receiver 16. They have thrown him the ball in the red zone. They've thrown it to him down low. And I think by this point, what you've got in Marquez Valdes-Scantling. You know what you've got in Hardman. Hardman's been on that team.
Which him more than any of the rest of us playing up there in Green Bay. And so I want nothing whatever to do with MVS. I want nothing
we all know
whatever to do with him. Nothing.
Justin Watson had the big catch last week, had a great big 67-yard hit last week, but he's still, he's not as consistent. He didn't get the looks this year that the rest of them did. I think had Toney been healthy, he'd have gotten more looks
for him
in New
being
York
healthy
and in Kansas City.
Right.
So there's a name that you could look at low, and he's only going to cost you $4,100 on DraftKings, whereas Smith-Schuster at wide receiver 10, like I said, is going to cost you $5,100. That's not terrible for a wide receiver. If you want to use him as your wide receiver 3, or plug him into a flex spot, I think you can you can take a chance at it. I wouldn't feel great about it.
Yeah,
I
you
wouldn't
might
be
be able to
about it.
slide that through depending on where else you're getting the players.
Right. I wouldn't be excited.
But I'm not
about
jumping up
playing,
and down over him. That's
no. And it's weird because you're talking about the number one quarterback, the number one tight end, a great pass game, running back who made his bones this year, McKinnon catching the ball. It's a good, passing team.
On my fantasy team. All right. There you go. McKinnon.
There you have it.
There you have
running back 20 on the year. He's running back 2. He was running back 2 on his own team, and he was running back 2 on. He was a running back 2 on a season.
And it took a while for him to get going. Then he said to CEH over there, "Hey, you can get on the bench, over there.
Well,
sit
that
down."
should have been said a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's true. And but McKinnon got out there, and then he just caught the ball. Which, if you're in PPR, there you have it.
I mean, I don't know. Like
There's not a more dangerous running back coming down the stretch than him catching the football.
Unless you want to splurge on Kelsey a little bit or splurge on Mahomes, though, I'm not feeling great about starting anybody on this Kansas City offense just because it's almost a case where they've got so many weapons, but none of other than Kelsey and Mahomes, none of their weapons are necessarily standout weapons.
Right.
It's not like it was when Tyreek Hill was there. And because that's the case, and because Mahomes is so damn good and sees the field so well and can distribute it so well, you never know from week to week if any individual one of these guys, from Pacheco and McKinnon all the way down to Watson and Sky Moore, if he even gets on the field, you never know which of them is going to get the look or have the bang off game there. And so I wouldn't feel great about playing any Chiefs this week, even though, I think they're going to win. I have them picked from the AFC. They're my Super Bowl pick from the AFC. And that's thinking with my head, not my heart, but I wouldn't feel great about playing anybody on that team in fantasy this week, unless in daily you want to splurge, like I said, for Kelsey and or Mahomes. So that's what I think about that.
You could talk me into McKinnon because he catches the ball, not running it.
You could talk me into that possibly.
Defense is good. Well, their defense, rush defense, is a little not great because they're number 12 overall.
Right.
But he catches the ball, which Jacksonville's defense is not the best at defending. So McKinnon is a guy I could get talked to put him in my lineup.
So again, I mean, I like the Chiefs I like the Chiefs to win this game, but I like the value you're going to get from the Jaguars and DFS on this one.
That's right. So start Jones, start Ingram's, Kirk. The one guy that I would not start is Etienne, because look at the Kansas City defense. They're number 8 against the run.
Yeah, that's their strength.
That's the strength of their defense, and I think they're going to run him, but you don't want a guy that's going to gain 3.3 yards per carry.
Well, no, you're going to want more from him out of the backfield too than one target like he got last week.
Right, and he can catch the ball. We know that from Clemson days, but he has not done that in the pros.
No,
so
they have not used him and they really haven't done it with anybody this year since they got rid of Robinson.
That's right.
So, all right. Well, we're going to take a break here.
Don't do it.
We're going to take a break here. We're going to listen to our True Classic spot. We come back on the other side. We're going to talk about the Saturday night game then between the Giants and the Eagles. We've been kind of itching to get to that one, and we're going to get to it right after this break from True Classic.
Football is back, baby, and our new sponsor, True Classic, wants you to look and feel your best even after a couple of brewskis or going full force on your fantasy football draft. Sure, it's football season, but it's also butt-to-couch season. Luckily, True Classic has the absolute best-fitting clothing a man can buy. Snug in the arms and chest with a little extra space in the torso, their t-shirts are designed to keep you cozy and highlight your best assets no matter what you're up to. So if your special someone is upset that you're watching football all day, at least you can look good doing it. True Classic has already helped over 2 million men find the perfect fit at an affordable price. Our listeners get access to the best deal they offer. For a limited time only, get 25% off with the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY at TrueClassic.com. Almost all men's t-shirts are designed to look good on skinny models with six-packs, but most of us aren't packing anything but a few beers. Fellas, you are wearing the wrong clothes. True Classic tees taper off towards the bottom, but they fit tighter around the chest and shoulders. It's time to highlight your best attributes with a t-shirt you can always confidently throw on. It's about time to get your fit together, so upgrade your wardrobe with True Classic and get 25% off at TrueClassic.com with promo code BellyUpFantasy. Free shipping included on purchases over $100. That's 25% off at TrueClassic.com with the promo code BellyUpFantasy. If there's one bet you should make this football season, it's on True Classic. True Classic, look good, feel good.
All right, thanks for that.
There we have it. Dan, bringing it on as he always does. And one thing I want to say before we move on to the Giants, Jacksonville won that game. Amazingly enough, they had no sacks. They had no turnovers from their defense. And that's not going to get it done against Jackson or against
they are going
the
to
Chiefs.
have to turn the ball over. You're right.
They're going to have to get Kansas City to turn the ball over. They're going to have to pressure Mahomes. And so that was the most amazing thing of all to me, that they were able to win that game and force no turnovers in that second half.
Right. The second half, their comeback, their big comeback was just efficiency. It wasn't because they were turning the ball over, like you said.
And the Chargers would not run the football, which I guess was the quarterback's coach's fault because they fired him, which I don't understand. He had nothing to do with calling 8 runs in the second half. But they fired him. They fired the offensive coordinator. And not only did the coach, Mr. Staley over there, not get left at the airport, he's coming back next year. So I don't know what to say about that exactly.
And Mahomes did throw 12 interceptions this year, but he also threw the ball more than anybody except Tom Brady and Justin Herbert. Yeah, he had 41 touchdowns. But he's not immune to the interception.
No.
Your best bet might be a fumble. Isaiah Pacheco, in only 170 carries, did have 4 fumbles this season. So, from the rookie. So there is that possibility. That you could, that you may be able to pop a turnover that way. But they are going to have to. They're going to have to
turn them over, and they're going to have to. They're going to have to get sacks, which did not happen against the Chargers. Didn't happen.
No, but but let's look at this game here now. The Giants and the Eagles. Now, again, hey, here's a team that didn't force any sacks or turnovers last week against the Vikings.
That's right. And they won as well.
Yeah.
And so if you told me there were 2 teams that had no interception and no sacks and won the game, I wouldn't have believed it.
Right. But they did. The Giants go into the the U.S. Bank Stadium there. They take out the Vikings 31-24. Eagles are a 6-point favorite according to our friends over at Quarter 4 in this game. They've got an over-under set at 51 for this one, so not quite the high-scoring offensive shootout that they think the other one will be. But 51 is still a nice number for Quarter 4. They don't often put games above 50.
That's one of the higher over-unders that I've seen so far. I've seen about 48.5. So 51, I might be looking under on that.
So you're talking about Daniel Jones, a guy that I was all on last week.
I was on him too.
Yep.
And he responded big time.
Oh, wonderful game.
Big time.
24-35 for 301 yards passing, a couple of scores, no turnovers. Ran it 17 times for 78 yards. He got a ton of points that way.
That's a 4.6 yards per carry. You would kill to have a running back that averages 4.6 yards per carry, let alone a quarterback.
And I have liked Daniel Jones all year. He was a starting quarterback this season. He was QB 10 on the year.
That's right. So he answered the bell. They didn't know, are we going to give him an extension? Well, yes, you will.
They better.
That's right.
Because of his rushing floor, he's a safer bet than maybe other people who have more. We just talked about the lack of weapons around him in terms of high-end names. But I think he's made these guys around him better this season. And that's what you want your quarterback to do.
If you got wide receivers that you found on the street, you need to make them look better because they're not going to do it on their own.
A bunch of moving van ride along guys, and
that's right. Guys that
catching footballs for
they dress them up as selves at security, and then got in the stadium and got out on the field, and And the next thing you know, they're starting wide receivers. So that's pretty much what the Giants have, and Jones made them all look like established NFL wide receivers.
Yeah, and some of these guys have been around a while. I mean, Slayton's been around a while. Richie James
Slayton's been a while.
Yeah. But
unfortunately, they were able to forget about the guy that everybody needs to forget about, which we're not even going to mention his name. And so I don't even know where that dude is. Do you?
What, are we talking Galladay?
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Where is he?
Did play.
Is he in a little dinghy in the middle of New York Harbor and can't find a way home?
The last time that these two teams played was Week 18.
Right.
And the Giants, because they were already locked into their seed and couldn't rise, couldn't fall, they played all their backups and their rookies. They started Davis Webb at quarterback, for crying out loud. They had Gary Brightwell was running the rock. But Galladay actually did play in that game.
Well, that doesn't speak well for him.
Right? When they were trying to
if you're playing with a guy named Davis at quarterback, you are not on the upswing.
When they're trying to protect their most important weapons and you're on the field still, that's something to be said there. But it was a preseason roster for them in that game. He is still around. I don't.
We think.
In theory, he's still listed on their depth chart, but he can find Richie James, Darius Slayton, Isaiah Hodgins, and honestly, Isaiah Hodgins has been a guy that has really come on here in the last.
He has, and he's a guy who I hadn't heard of. Really, I knew of him.
Nobody really had,
but he was targeted 9 times, 8 catches.
Yep.
All right, so 105 yards and a touchdown.
Over 100, got you a score.
105 and a touchdown. So therefore, that guy is a wide receiver 1 now on that team.
Right. And Darius Slayton had been the guy
he had been the only guy. I like him as well.
That could carry the load in that receiver room. He was about the only one that stayed healthy.
They just
remember.
Yeah, Daniel Jones and him, they don't have that connection because he got targeted 8 times but only caught 4.
I mean, look at what they had to start the year at receiver. They lost Sterling Shepard to injury for the season. They lost Wan'Dale Robinson to injury and never really had him to begin with. They traded away Tony because they didn't have him due to injuries and attitude either.
His head was somewhere else other than in New York. So
they lost guys left and right. Ingram had played there last year, so they were starting over with a rookie tight end.
He was gone. And Bellinger, he's been not 100%.
He shattered his eye socket, for crying out loud.
That's right.
So, he hasn't had a whole ton of people to throw to, has Daniel Jones, but the one guy who had kind of carried through was Darius Slayton, and he's been steady, and he's been
steady,
solid for them, and he's been a good player on the field. But
Hodgins is the guy that
actually has emerged as a legitimate.
That's right. He can make you the big play. He had 4 touchdowns on the year. Slayton had only 2. So look for Hodgins to be the big play guy if there is one for the Giants coming up this weekend.
And like I said, he's the guy that has actually emerged as a bona fide weapon here for them. He scored in 4 of the last 5 weeks of the regular season, 4 of the last 5 games that he played, and he didn't play Week 18 either. But from weeks 13 through 17, he scored in 4 out of those 5 games there. He has emerged as a target that they like to throw to.
Right.
He had 12 targets when they faced Minnesota, in week 16. And he came out and, like you said, led the team in targets
against Minnesota.
But he led the team in targets against Minnesota last week too.
He did.
And it's a guy that they're going to look for if they think they can exploit a matchup.
Yeah, but there comes your problem: is the Philadelphia Eagles are the #1 pass defense in the NFL. So much as we like to see Hodgins and the rest of them do something, that's a tough defense to be able to put that together. So DFS,
I do have
none
him
of those
drop.
guys are in
I
my
have him
lineup.
dropped a little
None.
bit. I have him dropped a little bit in my rankings this week. I have him ranked at 13, wide receiver 13. Not as maybe as high as I otherwise would. He's going to cost you
Right.
4,900 on DraftKings. Our partners over there at DraftKings.
Yeah, if you started him last week, you were happy.
You were happy.
But
I
that's
think you
not
can
the thing to do this week, though.
I think you can still plug him in as a wide receiver 3.
Maybe
at
I
4,900, he's
probably
affordable.
would not. You'd have to sit and sweet talk me for a half hour probably before I would do that. But
at 4,900, he's affordable. The last time he played the Eagles, he didn't play him in week 18, but in week 14, he did catch 4 out of 6 balls for a touchdown and 38 yards. Now, that's not a great yardage total, but like I said, he did score the last time out against Philadelphia. So it's not like he's not untouchable this week. I think he's the best option.
He's not untouchable, but he's approaching that to me.
Slayton's at 4,200. James is at 3,900.
No, I'm staying away.
3,900. No. If you get down to where you need to,
if you're starting the wide receivers from Jacksonville, as we just talked about, then none of these guys are going to be in your lineup.
I'm gonna make an argument that Hodgins can be on the back end of your lineup there. I don't like the other two. It's not the value that you got last week. You're not going to get that value this week that you got last week out of them. Last week, those were the two teams, the Giants and the Jaguars, that I said you could get good value out of both of those teams because the matchups were right there for them, and because the history is there. The recency bias. What have you done for me lately? Hodgins has done a lot for them lately.
He has.
And so I like him still in your lineup if you need.
So going forward, if you happen to see him laying around in your dynasty league somewhere, I want to snatch him.
Now Bellinger at 3,000 is a cheap tight end this week, but I don't like him. It's not a good
I don't like him either.
there.
If you're going to go with the tight end, Goddard on the other side.
Now he did score last week, but he only saw two targets. He caught them both.
2 targets for a tight end. It's not getting it done.
I want to see more targets than that, which is why Ingram, even though he's going to cost you more, like we said,
but not a boatload.
More, but he's going to get more looks as well.
That's right. So so if you want to, Evan Ingram is the way to go. Goddard is another way. I like him. He's healthy now. So
I like Dallas Goedert as a player anyway.
Dallas Goedert as a football player is one of those guys that, even though his name's Dallas, which he's probably got a lot of ripping for that in Philadelphia,
right?
When he first got there in the locker rooms and stuff like that. But he is a quality tight end, and he's healthy. So I would definitely look at him as a tight end. If you're looking for a guy, Bellinger, no. Goddard, yes.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, Goddard is going to cost you a little more this week. Goddard is
as he should.
As he should. He's going to cost you 4,500, but that's right in line with where I think you want your starting tight end anyway.
Even though he missed time, he still caught 55 passes.
Yeah, no.
And for a tight end, you'll take that for out a whole season, 55 catches.
Yeah, no, so. He was one of the leaders in the tight end, swamp.
Also on my fantasy team. Was. All right, just pointing that out. All right,
there you go.
There you have it.
There you go. No, he's a guy that they're going to target. Even though they've got two top 10 receivers.
All over the place. Yes, they do. They've got wide receivers. We could talk about top wide receivers. Philadelphia, you got to talk about these guys.
They are still going to throw to Dallas Goedert, and
they still are, and they're going to, AJ Brown, Smith. Those guys are solid as they come, and but Goddard brings it all home to me.
So, I mean, obviously the Eagles now being the number 1 seed in the NFC didn't play last week. The last time they played was week 18, but this is a team that they came away with the number 1 seed. But they have not looked like the number 1 seed. Well, to be honest with you.
To be fair, Hurts was hurt.
They're lucky.
he got the. Yes, they are. That he had
They're
another
lucky
week
that they
to
did well early
rest
in
and
the year.
relax, and he got some game time in a couple of weeks ago, and so that all comes down to Hurts. Whether if he's Hurts, we've seen throughout the season, the Eagles are in good shape. Let's face it.
And he was not in Week 18 against the Giants here.
And he was not.
The Eagles finished the year not looking good, whereas the 49ers have won 11 straight games now after
That's
last
why
weekend.
I think the 49ers are getting ahead of ourselves again.
They are. Yeah, they are my pick for the NFC.
Yeah,
I think
it makes me sick to my stomach to even think about it, let alone say that out loud. But the 49ers are the NFC's best team right now.
No, as a Packer fan, I'm tired of the 49ers in the playoffs myself. But, I mean, they have not missed a beat no matter who's been in at quarterback for them. They added weapons this year, and
they've got the guys that can stretch out your defense.
Yep.
And Deebo Samuel is a guy that we mentioned last week, and he showed up big time.
If you had Purdy and Samuel on your DFS lineup last week and you didn't win some money, I want to know what the hell you did with the rest of your roster
put together. Yeah,
because both of those guys went off, but
they did.
But no,
a 74-yard touchdown.
Yeah. The Eagles were the team that finished the year not looking great. We just said they faced the Giants. Their last game was against the same team they're going to play this Saturday against the Giants.
And they're a divisional opponent, which is always hard to predict.
It's a completely different team than the team they played 2 weeks ago. They played basically the entire second string of the Giants with their first string and almost lost. They only won that game by 6 points. 22-16 for an offense that was playing, for a defense that was playing against backups and an offense that was playing against, not the top unit there for the Giants, to squeak that game out 22-16 there. It's just, and they needed 5 field goals from Jake Elliott to do it. They needed 5 field goals, including a couple of 50-plus yarders to do it. That is just absolutely mind-boggling.
It is, and it gives you some pause going into this game about who.
I think it does.
Yeah, I think it does too. But like I said, if Jalen Hurts plays like the MVP everybody thought he was earlier in the season, if he plays like that, Eagles, I think, are in good shape. They've got the other weapons. They've got the defense. So, and the Giants can't hang with that offense if they're, percolating like they're supposed to, and the defense. But we don't know if that's going to happen. I think the Eagles win this game, and I think they're going to come out and show that they are, in fact, the number 1 seed, and give us some questions about whether or not when they face the 49ers in a week, and a half. But, so I think the Eagles win this game.
I think they do too.
They cover this spot, was it 6.5? That gives me some pause a little bit.
6. Right now, quarter 4 has them at 6. Now I would expect that line to move a little bit.
6? Okay. I'll take the Eagles -6 to win this game.
Okay. I think the Eagles do win. I think that for them to feel good at all about most likely playing, can you imagine?
Most likely. We don't know that for sure, but
no, we don't know. We don't know for sure, but they could. It's possible they could have to run through 2 divisional opponents to get to the Super Bowl.
That's right. And so,
it's the only division
and divisional opponents always gives you fits.
Right?
It doesn't matter, because we've seen that with Arizona. They were bankrupt all season long. The Rams were bankrupt, and then the Rams that took overtime for the Seahawks to beat them to get in the playoffs. So when you're playing a divisional opponent, you can throw out all the stats. You can do whatever. It's a divisional game. You don't know which way things are going to go, but
they need to come out though, and I think
they do need. If we're to take them seriously, they need to win this game by more than 6 points.
Yeah, and I think they need to see good games from Hurts, who did not throw a touchdown the other day. I mean,
That's right. And I
2
need
weeks
to see
ago,
Hurts, like I said, like
he
he's
rushed
been
9 times
the
for 13
guy.
yards
All right. Right. He's a
against the
guy,
Falcons.
like you just said, 13 touchdowns, 4.6 yards per carry. He only
Possible
had 6
MVP this year.
interceptions on the season. This guy is the whole package. Everybody was worried about him coming into the season. The Eagles could be good, but we don't know about Hurts. Well, you do now.
You don't get 2 top 10 wide receivers unless the quarterback is slinging the ball well.
Right. And
Jalen
they
Hurts has
certainly
thrown
have
the
that
ball
in
well.
AJ Brown and
Jalen
Lotus
Hurts
Smith.
Jalen Hurts proved himself to be a
He
quarterback
did.
this
So,
year.
and he's on his rookie deal.
Still on his
So
rookie
if the
deal.
Eagles want to make some waves, this is the season to do it.
Yep. Well,
Get
they
to
went
the
all in.
Super
They
Bowl
grabbed
while he's
Brown.
on that rookie contract, because once you pay him, the Super Bowls are over for you.
No, they made some trade. They made trades in the preseason. They made trades in season. They are going for it, and it paid off with a number 1 seed.
It did.
They haven't looked well. They haven't looked good lately. But I think you need to see Miles Sanders have a good game this
Miles
week.
Sanders
You need
is
to
a
see
guy.
Jalen Hurts.
When I was looking at him, I was
need to see them
surprised.
have good games.
He averaged 4.9 yards a carry. I didn't realize he was that solid. And
good
so,
year. Very good.
And he has 11 touchdowns, and the Giants' defense is number 27 against the rush. So, therefore, if you need a running back in your DFS play, there he is right there.
Yeah, if anything, I think they need to throw to Sanders more. They don't throw to him enough.
No, they don't.
But yeah, he's only 5,700 right now on DraftKings this week. I agree with you. I think that's a good play. I think that's a good value play.
That's a very good value play. And so there's your running back if you're looking for one. Miles Sanders. Go get it.
We're talking week 18 against the Giants. He rushed 11 times, 33 yards, didn't catch his only target. I mean, Gainwell, they ran Boston Scott and Gainwell a lot more in that game than they probably normally would.
Yeah, they're not doing that this weekend.
No, I mean, this weekend, you've got to get the ball to your best players. So you've got to get the ball to Goddard, Smith,
that's right,
Brown, and Sanders. You've got to do it. But we need to see more out of them this week. Hurts is 7,600. Again, if you want to pay one of the higher end premiums for a quarterback this week, although 7,600 is not a terrible price. He's going to cost you, but I think that Hurts, I think it pays off. I've got him ranked as my number 2 quarterback because of the matchup here.
Because of the matchup and his weapons.
Yeah. His
weapons are elite. So,
right. Like I should be able to throw a couple of touchdowns in a season if I'm throwing to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert.
That's right.
And Quez Watkins. We haven't even brought up Quez Watkins.
No.
Quez Watkins.
What a name, right?
But I think Quez Watkins is a guy to watch. He's young. He's a fun deep threat. They can throw the ball. I mean, you've already got 2 guys that your 2 starters, your Brown and Smith, can be deep threats as well. It's not like they're not. But Quez Watkins, that's his game.
But AJ Brown averaged 17 yards a catch. So if that's not a deep threat, I don't know what is.
No, AJ Brown picked up acreage this year every time he touched the football. But Quez Watkins is a fun, and he's one of those guys. He's like Gabriel Davis from Buffalo in that, I mean, he's not going to catch a ton of passes, but the ones that he does catch are going to be long bombs.
All right, because you're right about that. 88 catches at 145. If he was a little bit more in sync with Hurts, but you look at Devonta Smith, he had 130 targets, caught 95 of them. So there's your guy to look at, because apparently him and Hurts, maybe they high five each other in the locker room. I don't know, but
right.
But so they're in sync more than AJ is. But if you need the big play, AJ Brown will give that to you.
Yeah, no, I think he will. I think in my opinion, I think Watkins could be a number 2 receiver on a football team, except that we just said, he's dealing with 2 top 10 type wide receivers on his own team, including a former Heisman Trophy winner. But Quez Watkins is fun. He's somebody in Dynasty I like to get I like to have shares of. He's only 3,300 this week. I don't know that I want to trust him this week, but
No, I
it's
don't.
just a name to keep in mind.
I don't think I'm going there.
Like you said, you like Goddard. I like Goddard. He's 4,500 on DraftKings right now.
I like him a lot. How could you not like him?
He's a lot more in line with what you want to pay for a tight end. And
I don't think it's that. Well, Schultz maybe, but Goddard and Schultz might be battling for that number 2 tight end spot this weekend. So
they might.
I'd probably take Goddard over Schultz.
I've got Goddard ranked as number 3 this week. I've got Goddard ranked as number 3. I've got Kittle at 2, and I've got Kelsey at 1.
Okay, so Goddard, you can't go wrong with Goddard. Can't.
You're paying a lot less for Goddard.
I'll take that every single day.
Yeah, I mean, I just said 7,700 for Kelsey right now. You're going to pay less than 3,000. You're going to pay over $3,000 less for Dallas Goedert that you can then put in one of your other positions.
That's right.
I think Goddard gets looks. He's going to get looks. He's going to get red zone.
He's going to get looks. He's going to get catches, and he can find the end zone, even though he only had 3 this year. But he missed time. He missed time. So
the nice thing the thing I do like about Dallas Goedert is that they use him between the 20s. He is not the Dawson Knox dependent on the red zone looks.
Right. So you're going to get targets. You're going to get receptions. You're going to get yards.
And I mean, I just brought up my top 3, and then Dalton Schultz at 4. What's the common denominator with the 4 of them? Now I know Schultz had 2 touchdowns last week, but the common denominator with all 4 of those tight ends is that they are guys who the teams will look at between the 20s. They are not just looked at. It seems like so many offenses think about tight end as solely as a tackle between the 20s, as an extra tackle, and then a red zone target. And if you get down inside the 20-25. But the top tight ends, the top receiving guys, and the guys that are the real threats in fantasy and in real life, are those guys that will get the usage in the middle of the field. Travis Kelce is always an option no matter where you are on the field.
That's right.
If
he can catch the ball at the 45 and he's gone.
Right. If it's 3rd and 19 from your own 18-yard line.
Yeah, you might want to block. You might want to, put a guy on Travis Kelce. Might want to.
Right. It just blows me away every time you see him open. But I mean, you're talking about teams that use the tight end in that way and don't just turn it into a red zone only look, as it feels like the Buffalo Bills do with Dawson Knox. I've said he's way, for his fantasy points, he is way too dependent on red zone looks, and he doesn't get enough red zone looks.
Right.
Robert Tonyan in Green Bay.
Right.
Way too dependent on scoring in the red zone instead of getting those points like the other top guys, like the top guys do. They can score points anywhere on the field because they're catching balls between the 20s. They're not just, getting looked at in the red zone. If, for that matter, I mean, Mercedes Lewis, who is older than you and I think, and and
he's
has not necessarily been a receiving threat for about 6 years, it seems like. But he gets a lot of looks in the red zone for Green Bay, and I think he's one of Rodgers' favorite targets inside the red zone when he's actually in the game there. But that doesn't do you any good from a fantasy standpoint because he's just not going to score enough points consistently enough. So that's why I love Goddard. I like him at this price. I like him much better than Kelce at that.
Not just because he's on my fantasy team, by the way.
Right. And it's not.
Although it worked out well for me that he was.
It's not a situation too where, I mean, sometimes, when you're building a fantasy daily lineup, you try and, you get down to your flex position and you don't know what you've got left for money. So you kind of have to plug in a cheap option there. Some of the tight ends that are still left, we just talked about Goddard and Schultz and Bellinger, can score. Ingram is cheaper than the top 2-3 options there.
Yeah, if you're not going to go with Goddard, it's Ingram for me.
There are guys available still at that tight end position that you're not punting on the flex position by plugging a tight end in there like you are during the regular season. Normally during the regular season, if you're plugging a tight end no matter what the format, daily, redraft, dynasty, whatever, if you're plugging in a second tight end or a tight end at a flex option, generally it means you're punting on that position. I mean,
Yeah, you might want to
whack jobs that ends up with
consult
two of the top five tight ends
fantasy
on your
football how-to guide.
team. Right. Yeah, right. Learn the game. All right. Well, let's take a look here real quick before we get off the air here. I've got some prop bets here, and we can look.
Okay.
We'll do a little bit of over under like we talked about here.
All right, let's fire it up.
Looking at the number one game, the top game there, the early game, Jaguars and Chiefs. Travis Kelce receiving yards 69.2. You going over or under on that?
I'm going to go under. It's not
under.
a lot of yards, but if they want to win the game, I think he needs to be over. But that's going to be tough sledding for him.
Okay. Isaiah Pacheco rush yards 42.7.
Oh, he's going over that.
Okay. Kelce, I'll go over on the receiving yards for Kelce. Honestly, I'll go under on the Pacheco. I'll go the opposite of you on both of those.
Okay.
I'm going to go over on receiving yards for Kelce. I'll go under on Pacheco. Zay Jones. For that matter, let's go Zay Jones and Christian Kirk. We'll look both of them at the same time. We can think about them. Zay Jones and Christian Kirk, their receptions totals. Jones is at 5.1. Kirk is at 5.2. So we think either one of those guys gets 6 catches or more? Or are they,
I do.
I
go over on both.
On both. Yeah, again, like you just said, if they want a chance to win, they're going to have to see more. They're going to have to see more looks than that. They're going to have to see enough looks that they catch more than 6 balls. I think I agree with you there. Last week they both 14 and 13 targets. They caught 8, and that's right in line with where they were on the season in terms of the percentages. I agree with that. I would say.
I think that especially if they get behind early, they're going to be throwing the football, and so I'm going over on both of them.
How about Travis Etienne's rush yards 64.4? He blew it away last week.
He did. He had 109. I'm going to go slightly under. Slightly under. If he's over that, then they might be okay.
If he's over that, I think it bodes well for the Jaguars because I think it means
I do too.
I think that they are going to be trailing a lot and having to throw the ball a lot. So I think his rush total, I would go under on that. Yeah.
I'm going under on that.
All right. Now let's turn our attention to Giants Eagles here real quick. Devontae Smith receiving yards 87.
That's a lot of yards for all the weapons they have. I'm going under.
I like the under on that as well. How about A.J. Brown receiving yards 89.2?
I'm going under too on that. They might both be in that area. I'll go
over on Brown. I'll go under on Smith.
I could see that happening, but with both of those guys and Goddard all in the same game, I'm going under.
He went over it last week. He went over it.
Yes, he did. He did.
He went over it with just 4 catches. He's got that ability because
he does, as we just talked about.
He catches the ball downfield. I think he can hit that number. So I'll go over on Brown. How about Saquon Barkley rush yards 48.5?
He's going over that.
Oh yeah. I think he is too.
If he's under 48, the Giants have 0 chance.
I think the Giants' best chance to win is he's the top offensive weapon on their team. Daniel Jones aside.
Yeah, clearly.
Notwithstanding, I think that he's the best offensive weapon they have. If they're pounding the rock with him, if they are running the ball behind him successfully, it means that their offensive line is actually winning some battles up front. And it means that they're keeping the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands and Miles Sanders' hands and A.J. Brown's hands and Devontae Smith's hands and Dallas Goedert's hands. If they are running the ball effectively with Saquon Barkley, not only are they going to be chewing up yards and chewing up points, and scoring points, but they're chewing up time.
That's right. And Jalen Hurts is sitting over there, and his muscles might tighten up who knows what. So yeah,
right? So I think if they want to win this game, they have to try to do that. And I think that because of that, he gets enough. Even if they end up losing this game, I think he gets enough run early enough and is successful enough that I think he goes over that as well. Passing yards, Daniel Jones, 263.4 over under.
he's under.
Yeah.
He
I
might
think
be
so
under
too.
that by a significant amount.
Jalen Hurts passing yards, 270.1.
Over. Maybe.
I'm gonna go under on that one.
Okay. You could
I'm gonna
talk me
go-
into doing that
I'm
as
gonna
well.
go under on that one. But again, I think about half of those yards, half the yards he does have are going to AJ Brown. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for us here on Belly Up Fantasy Live for your Wednesday night edition, a Saturday preview. Kevin, you got anything going on right now, or anything we should be looking at for you on the site?
Well, you need to get over there on the Belly Up Fantasy website, as we talked about last Sunday. I got the article out there where I talk about in fantasy baseball and baseball in general, the rules, the changes that are coming, and most importantly, how are they going to affect fantasy baseball players? Because these rules are going to affect pitchers and hitters.
Yep.
And so that article is hot right now. It's trending out there. So you're going to want to get over there and check that out. And
all of a sudden, your lefties look a lot better at the plate.
So if you happen to have a left-handed hitter, you've got to give him a boost in all areas, average, slugging, all that.
I got my fingers crossed for Christian Yelich this season that he
Christian Yelich, yep. You and my Vince, he's also a Brewers guy, and so he's got his fingers crossed as well. And Bellinger from the Dodgers is on the Cubs now, and he has been absolutely awful.
Killed by that.
So I still wouldn't touch him. By the way,
no.
So,
but it might help. He looks better with the rule changes, like you said, and the speed guys. We might actually see some stolen bases this season.
Yep.
All right. Well,
so there you have it.
As always, find me at STT Chase FFB on the Twitter machine there. I will have game previews for all 4 games this weekend coming out tomorrow and Friday.
Yeah, and do yourself a favor and check out these articles because they are hot.
We'll go a little more in depth than we sometimes go here on the show on that. My rankings, like I said, will be up on the site for my DFS rankings, or essentially my rankings for the week. Those will be up over there at the site as well. And always check out the rest of Belly Up Fantasy Media for some fun content.
Always
great insight from some of these guys and girls. And
That's right.
Get over there at bellyupfantasysports.com. Check out everything we've got going on over there. So until Sunday, I am Chase Thornton. I'm telling you,
that's right. 11 Eastern, where time begins, apparently.
And we'll have the preview for the Sunday slate for the 2 games on Sunday there as well. Have a good weekend, everybody. Good luck, and we'll see you on Sunday morning.
Everybody have a good day. Good night.